and welcome to episode 19 of the Malton Travel podcast. So we've had a little bit of a break over the summer, time to recoup and relax, and we are about to start our next series. So we got together and we've done another bit of a live recording, so a mismatch really here, a mix-up of a couple of different recordings that we did over the August bank holiday. We'd all kind of been off on holidays, etc. So it was the first time that the three of us got together. Unfortunately, the timing meant and Nick had to go to work on the Sunday, so we couldn't quite get all three of us in the same place. So I kind of acted as a middleman. So I met up with Nick on the Saturday. Actually, on the Friday we began, and we were mainly focused on going to the Malton Food Festival, where the obviously podcast gets its name. And then I met up with Bruce, who just returned from his little soiree down to the Isle of Wight and the southern ports on the Sunday as well. So I put together a couple of recordings just where we're really catching up over the summer, catching up on what we've been doing, a little bit of a kind of few little teasers for some future episodes that we put together as well. So hopefully it's an enjoyable listen. And as always, again, if you want to catch us on YouTube as well, then you will see some of the pictures that we took over that weekend that I took as well. So as I say, we actually started off a little bit early on the Friday. I went up to Yorkshire with the son, and we actually met Nick and we went up to Scarborough. I was quite keen to go and try out the North Riding Brew Pub, which is up on the North Bay at Scarborough. Again, and recently I've got a couple of beers that had won some local awards, and particularly wanted to go and try their Peas Home Pale. So we just done an hour or so in Scarborough, so we parked up just down the road. It's quite useful actually in the North Bay. It was a very busy August bank holiday, so it was busy, and Ollie Murs was in town, so there was a massive queue getting ready for, I think, his evening concert that he was doing outside at Scarborough. So this is the North Riding Brew Pub. I say it's very much high up on that North Bay cliff. Quite an old-fashioned pub, very Victorian inside. So again, a couple of pictures here. We went into the rear bar, and I had quite a nice pint of their Peas Home Pale, and Nick tried the Dock of the Bay. So again, it's a little bit confusing because there's also a North Riding Brewery, which actually is very close to Scarborough in a place called Snayton. And I do think there's some link between the two. But the pub themselves, they have their own little microbrewery, and they do quite a range of beers actually. Of their own beers, and then they also offer a broad range of national and regional beers as well, and both on cask and on keg. So well worth a trip out, well worth to have a look around. It's very close to the Scarborough Cricket Ground. Again, if you're going to watch maybe the cricket at some point, it's just up there, and very close to Peas Home Park, which again, people have been to Scarborough, you may know Peas Home Park. Particularly like the windows in that rear room, very tall windows, very kind of typical Victorian kind of hotel public house with very high ceilings, very long windows, and each of at the bottom of each of the windows, they've put on some of the brews that they have made over the years. And again, as always, a little bit kind of like Brew York, really. Some quite nice named beers. So Blessed the beer we quite liked, which you can see on the picture there with Brian Blessed, great Yorkshireman there as well. Crocodile JP. So I said there's a great deal. And we also like the Naughty Tower, which is their kind of strong or stronger keg beers that they put on as well. So we had an enjoyable couple of pints in there. And then we quickly moved on. Nick's been a couple of times out to the old Scarborough Mills, which again is a pub a little bit out of town. It's towards the north of the town, in a fantastic situation overlooking the top end of the North Bay, quite close to the Sea Life Centre. And as part of their kind of lockdown or their emergent lockdown, they've built a very nice outdoor area. You can just see it. There's Nick's walking down the picture there. Those on YouTube to the right of the pub there, and there's a nice actually glass veranda at the front of the pub as well. But the view from the little wooden section they built on the bottom side there is fantastic. So you can sit outside and you can overlook the whole of the North Bay of Scarborough. Fantastic views across the Scarborough Castle and Marine Drive. So again, well worth a trip out there. Again, if you're lucky, there is free parking on the road down towards the pub, or you can park in the large car park, which is a paying car park by the Sea Life Centre. And again, one of their specials is they have their own beer that's brewed by Wooltop, and that's called North Bay. So Wooltop, again, we've mentioned a few times before, again, from up a farm up in the Wolds that have a brewery. And again, it was a very enjoyable, very traditional English bitter style beer. So that was our warm-up on the Friday. And then I said the main event was going to the Malton Food Festival on the Saturday. It was actually on all weekend. Great. We managed to catch up with Howard from the Yorkshire Pudding Company and had a chat with him. He had a couple of stalls at the top end of the marketplace and was doing really good business. And it was really fantastic in that he had the Yorkshire pudding on cask, which neither of us had before. So that was really great as well. So I'm going to play the recordings from our time in Malton. There's a couple of recordings we did throughout the day. And then we'll move on to York, where I say myself and my son, we met up with Bruce just for a couple of beers at lunchtime. In fact, we were off to the rugby league. We're going to watch York play the Bradford Bulls, who were playing kind of get ready for the playoffs in the championship. We hadn't been to the new LNER Stadium, so that was a bit of a day out for us on the Sunday as well. So we met with Bruce for a couple of beers in town, and that's the second part of recording as well. And then I'll catch up with you at the end just to kind of put things together. So the quality of sound isn't great because we were doing this live. We were using kind of the iPhone and stuff. And again, it was quite busy in most of the pubs that we're in. But hopefully you'll get the gist. So off we go.
Right. So here we are, after a long break on the Malton Travel podcast. We are slowly coming back to life again. So we're currently at the Malton Food Festival, and we're sat in the Cross Keys Hotel having, Nick's on the Bolt Maker and I'm on the Westgate Blonde, which is quite nice. So hopefully just going to have a quick catch up, get things ready for our new season. So I think technically this is episode 19. So I've met up with Nick today, and we've got Finlay with us as well, and then I'm going to meet with Bruce tomorrow in York. Unfortunately, again, we can't quite get all the three of us together in person, but we'll be doing our Zoom calls hopefully from next week as well, and lots to pick up. So Nicholas, how have we been over the last few weeks?
Hey up, all right. Yeah, not too bad, obviously. Summer season, very, very busy as far as tourism and hospitality is concerned. Managed to get out for a couple of scoops, as they call it. Just trying to recollect and what my highlights have been, really. As you know, I always keep it Yorkshire. So, had one or two nice Yorkshire beers. And yeah, we're at the Food Festival in Malton today. So, been to see Howard with the Yorkshire Pudding Beer.
Yeah, we had a nice pint of Yorkshire Pudding Beer.
Brascastle was on form as well. They've taken over the Milton Rooms, which is the main function hall in the centre of Malton. Anybody knows Malton, the Milton Rooms is where all the theatrical and the concerts take place. So, a bit different this year. They normally have a tent outside with wobbly plastic glasses and nowhere to stand. And that induces the fact that people drink very quickly and maybe get a bit naughty. But it's a bit more civilised this year. So they've moved to the Milton Rooms. Price is good as well.
Yeah.
$3.50 for a pint.
That was good, man.
Which you can't.
Here we go. There we go.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, thank you.
How much for each one?
So that was good. Moved up to the Talbot Yard, and we sampled a new beer.
Yeah.
Initially, we were a bit taken aback by the price because it was anybody who knows our podcast.
Gin bar, though, wasn't it?
I don't like the craft beers, and it was served in a can, and it was £5 a can. But when we found out it was from Kilham, which is once again in the east Rydnam, Yorkshire, between where is Kilham? It's just this side of Lund, round about the Beverley area. Obviously, it seems, reading the information on the label, it was a farm that's diversified, but a couple of IPA tins, and yeah, it wasn't offensive.
Raven Hill was the brew, which we haven't come across before, wasn't it?
That's right, Raven Hill, yeah.
It was a different one.
The address for the brewery or the company is a farm, so obviously it's a farm that's diversified again, but fair play.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
If you can't make money as you should be able to do now, then yeah, you know that his raw materials are quality, they're good, and that's the thing with us Yorkshire folks. We make sure that we put our mind to a business or a transaction. We make sure we do it properly and make sure that the product is a quality product. So yeah, all right.
And then I'm on a new one again. Westgate Brewery is new for us, so this is their original blonde, which is quite nice. They're from Wakefield, so that's been my thing last few weeks. We're just trying lots of new breweries. So we might do a podcast about kind of new beers we've had. There's been quite a lot actually over this last few weeks. We've had. I've obviously been to Jersey, so we're going to do an episode on Jersey. Bruce has just returned from a little soiree down to the south coast. He's been to the Isle of Wight and then the southern port. So Bruce is going to do his little summary of his little journeys around there as well.
Not so much impressed with the prices, but he was so impressed with the vibe of the couple of towns and cities that he's been to. So yeah, he'll be able to enthuse about where he's been.
And then we've got a Lake District one to finish up with, so we've got to do an episode on that. And then I think we've got to get our thinking caps out and think about the thing. Me and Nick, we had quite a nice little session in Whitby, so I'm actually thinking we might do a little bit kind of a mini Whitby tour, because we've mentioned Whitby on the North Coast one. But I guess lots of people will probably head to Whitby, especially staycations at the moment. It's a great place to go and up that end. So I think there's probably enough pubs in Whitby to kind of say. And I managed to get Nick to two new places that we had been to before when we were in Whitby. So I might do a little session on that as well. So that's the plan. So we're just in the Cross Keys at the moment, looking over the Malton's kind of main kind of high street. It's a bit quieter this side of town. The festival's well on. There's quite a good range of beer in this town. As I say, there's Festival Bar in the Milton Rooms, there's the Yorkshire Pudding Bar, there's the Yorkshire Beer Buzz is out there as well.
The Cross Keys itself is probably one of the most historical pubs in town. It is very, very, very old. For anybody who's into all the supernatural, it's supposed to be full of ghosts. They've actually got a crypt down in the cellar. And they've always maintained and reckoned that there is a tunnel connecting the Cross Keys, which is in the centre of Malton, up to St Mary's Abbey, which is up in Old Malton. For whatever reason, they reckon there's a tunnel there. Where it comes back to, Mike, you can tell me more about this, when Catholics were being persecuted and all that sort of stuff.
Priest holes, yeah.
Something to do with religion. But anyway, the Cross Keys, it's a multi-layered, levelled pub. It's got a beer garden now. They always have the real ale on there. It's a really nice place to drop into.
Yeah, 4 casks on today, 2 tailors.
Right on the main street on Wheelgate.
On Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Good.
Certainly worth frequenting.
So I think again, the other one we haven't actually done a podcast about Malton, so that's something else we probably need to do. That's another one for the list, really. So I say the plan is that we're just kind of catching up again a little bit after the summer, and then I say hopefully we'll be back to a fairly normal regime, and we'll be going one every fortnight for the next couple of months as we get into the autumn. Life's slowly turning back to normal. Again, it's interesting. Again, just looking at the pubs here, we've kind of got some clients have got masks and things on where they walk in. Some people haven't. Obviously, we're back on table service. So again, I've been to a couple places where they've still maintained table service, and I think that's another debate, isn't it?
It's weird. I mean, we're in Rydal at the moment, Mike, and obviously you're based down in Staffordshire. Rydal, throughout all the lockdown, were the height of the league table in terms of no COVID incidences. Now, our numbers have spiked, and I put that down to one of 2 reasons. Number one, it's either the influx of people from outside who are coming in, or it's the fact that our figures are so good, we're actually just catching up with everybody else now. I mean, I know why you guys came from Staffordshire, you're looking at us a bit,
weird.
Why are you still wearing masks? But that's what we do around here. It's different between a rural environment and what I would call yourselves, where you are an urban environment, and people have accepted it, and ultimately, either everybody's going to catch it or everybody's going to be inoculated against it. But I think that's why now Rydal, from being top of the league, we're at the bottom of the league, because it's just actually catching up with us now.
So no, we'll pick up on and talk about kind of experiences in pubs and etc. Obviously, there's been a bit of being. It's been a bit quiet, really. I know we probably need to pick up on Allsops have relaunched themselves, and they've had a big push this last few weeks. So we might talk a little bit about that as well. So we'll
staffing is still a problem.
Every pub's got a thing on the door, isn't it, saying we need staff.
It's quite obvious that even I was turning away from Wetherspoons in York a couple of weeks back. This was middle of the afternoon on a Monday. Went to the front door, and the guy said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you've got to wait 20 minutes." And I said, "Well, why?" And I looked in the pub, and the pub wasn't busy at all, but every table was completely full of mucky plates and mucky glasses, and I think they were just wanting to have a clear out. And this is even with the food festival today, some of our local hostilleries, we've noticed that they're not providing the service they would normally do, simply because of a lack of staff. So I think that is that is ongoing. That is significant.
And then we'll see whether, again, the logistics and transport, whether that's going to start to affect, well, maybe not the beer side, but certainly the food side. We had a quick trip to Scarborough yesterday. Again, we called into the North Riding Brewery pub, so we talk about that at some point. And we went to the old Scully Mills, and again, they weren't doing any food yesterday because they were lack of staff. So, yeah, that's been one of the...
We assumed that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
things that... I think there. So, yeah, so lots to catch up on. So, we might come back a bit later on. I'll say it's about, time is now about 2 in the afternoon. So we've had a couple of pints so far. We're off up to one of our favourites, the old Malton Royal Oak, later on this evening. We booked in there. And then I said that we're off to York tomorrow to watch a bit of rugby league. But then before that, we're going to have a couple of beers. Perhaps going to a couple of pubs that actually we didn't mention actually on our podcast. And for 3 podcasts, didn't we, about York? So I've challenged Bruce that we might just try and find some of the newer places that have opened. And we'll go and check those out and then give you feedback. So I'll do a little bit of a recording with Bruce tomorrow, just to get Bruce to give a little bit of flavour about what he's been doing over the last couple of weeks. And then I say we'll get back to our normal regime. So over and out for now, and then hopefully we'll catch up with you very soon.
So
So that was the first recording that we did. Apologies for the rustling and the odd occasional crackle in the background. We secured some very nice pot scratchings from the beer festival, and they were going down really well with the beer. So that was we had a nice little couple of pints in the Cross Keys, and then we headed off back round the festival. We ended up at the Brass Castle tap and the brewery at the back there, and then we ended up in Nick's back garden. It was Nick's birthday that weekend, and I'd got him some Great Newsom beer, so we sampled those. So the next recording was done in Nick's back garden, just where we kind of summed up a little bit about what we've been doing the day. So I'll let that play now.
So we're now in Nick's back garden. We've come down from the beer festival, the food festival, sorry. Well, which became a beer festival, really, in a way, didn't it? So we finished up in the Brass Castle. We went round the back. Very nice, got a nice seat opposite. So we're now in Nick's back garden. We've come down from the beer festival, the food festival, sorry. Well, which became a beer festival, really, in a way, didn't it? So we finished up in the Brass Castle. We went round the back. Very nice, got a nice seat opposite the brewery, and they've got a little micro bar in the brewery as well as the main tap bar as well. So Nick went back on the Brass Castle Blonde, but I was on the Bad Seed, as I was doing there, and the other Malton beer, Bad Seed, which was quite nice, the other Bad Seed beer, wasn't it? It was quite nice.
Right, just like very small range available, but obviously what they're serving, they know it's going to be all right.
Yeah,
so
and although it was, $3.50 a pint, went for cask in there, which was all right, which is sticking what we think is the festival price, although again, Howard at the Yorkshire Pudding bar said that he'd been told to charge $4.50 a pint, so... Yeah. That was interesting, but that was a nice little finish. So I said we've had a few little squirt around Malton, so we're now just enjoying some Great Newsom Frotheringham Bess in Nick's back garden, which I know has recently won an award, and I bought some of these.
What, my back garden?
Your back garden. Yes, it's got some green turf on it. We were thinking about going down to the cellar bar, but that's maybe another episode maybe. So we're just sat enjoying a little bit of Yorkshire sunshine. So we've been out for a few hours. So we've got red faces and. We're on to about pint 5 or 6 now, which is quite good. So Nicholas is starting to jump and dance around the streets of Norton, but he's all right. So yeah, we're just chilling out now. So it's been a quite nice day. So we've had a nice little selection, really. Food festival was all right. It wasn't
all
too
the
manic.
beers we tried have been good.
Yeah.
Even though we've had a couple of, you could say, like were semi-craft. They weren't cloudy. They weren't like dishwasher water. They were all right. Yeah.
And again, getting ready for Bruce's podcast, but. Was it £5 was maximum we paid for it? Well, it wasn't a pint, it was a can, wasn't it? A $4.40 can.
But it was local, so we accepted it. We said, like, supporting a local little brewery, yeah.
So very good. So we're hoping that there'll be a nice selection on at the Royal Oak in Malton, Old Malton tonight.
Yeah.
It normally has 3 beers on there, so we'll see what they've got there. So we might do a little bit of a recording when we get there as well. And I say hopefully tomorrow the plan is that I will be meeting Bruce in York. I think we're going to head to the new Fossgate Tap, which we haven't been in yet, and also the House of Trembling Madness. Now I've got a second venue in Lendl, which again certainly I've not been in. I don't know, Nick, you been to the new House of Trembling Madness?
I don't think so.
Since they've moved to Lendl. I mean, they've still got the old place down the.
I know where it is, but yeah.
What's it called? Not the High Pity Gate, isn't it? Where the original is.
Yeah.
Which is a bit cramped. I think that's what they've done really. They've found somewhere that's got a bit more space in it, etc. So we'll see how we go there. So yes, very nice. So we had a pleasant day. So I said we're just going to chill out in the garden for a couple of hours and then head off to the Royal Oak in Old Malton for some nice South African food. Probably haven't seen Steve since we were in Jersey, so as mentioned, I've been to Jersey, so had a few beer adventures in Jersey. Managed to get to most of the places that we've been recommended. Yeah. Unfortunately, the brewery was still a little bit kind of closed down because of COVID. COVID's quite strict in Jersey, but managed to get to a couple of the pubs that you mentioned, and certainly enjoyed some of the Liberation Ales, which is their kind of Jersey brewery, and that was good. So good stuff. So I said we'll come back to you soon.
So that was day one, and as I mentioned earlier, on day two then, myself and my son Finley, we went off to York. We caught the train, a very busy train actually, and then we met up with Bruce at the station, and we headed off to try out the new House of Trembling Madness. So a little bit of a York legacy. We did mention this in our York episodes, and actually about a year ago now, they've opened up a second venue, not far away from the original one, but in a much more spacious building. Actually, building it used to be a long history, but it's got it was a suitcase kind of bag type shop for many moons. For those in New York, it's just across the Judge's Lodgings, which again has got a really nice seated area outside and just near St. Anne's Square. And there is a Nicholson's pub just on the corner of the Harkers, which people might know as well. So very much in the centre of York. So let's play the recording from York. We do this in 2 parts. Something went a bit wrong when we were in the Fossgate Tap, so it happens there as well. A couple of times I'm trying that last recording. There's a bit of a jig there with the thing. It's only for a second, so I'm trying to rush this through on a Thursday night to get it out on the podcast on the various channels. So I hope you'll let that one slip, and hopefully it didn't distract you much when you're listening. So this was day 2 in York.
Right, so we're on day 2 of our little catch-up, and we're currently in the Fossgate Social. Oh no, the Fossgate Tap, sorry, not mixed up with Fossgate Social.
Fossgate Tap, yeah.
So we met up with Bruce, so we've got a lovely 80s soundtrack to us at the moment. So we've had a quick livener in the new House of Trembling Madness in Lendl, which was very nice. So we had both had a pint of Rivington in there, and then we're just sat in the front window watching the world go by. Very busy Yorkies today. So as I say, with me and Finley, we're on our way to watch York play rugby league this afternoon. We've met up with Bruce, who's straight off the hovercraft from his holidays down south. So as I said yesterday, we're going to hopefully catch up with Bruce in more detail. We thought we'd just give a little bit of a little what the word is, kind of a little enticer, just to tell some of the little trips and beer adventures that we've been on. So how are things, Bruce?
Fine, thank you. No, it's a lovely day today. And I said, should point out this is our second visit today, and both of them have been former historical shops that have been converted into pubs in York so far this morning.
So this was the Army and Navy stores?
This was the Army and Navy stores, which
was the
classic Army and Navy stores, long, narrow, full of drawers, selling items you couldn't get anywhere else. This closed about 5 years ago, and then prior to this being the second House of Trembling Madness in York. The first one's a wonderful converted 13th century attic bar down Stonegate, and we've been to the more recent House Trembling Madness, which was an Edwardian luggage shop. It was a real landmark on Lendal, Robson Cooper's. Bit of a shame really, because it sold things like gentlemen's briefcases, attaché cases, cufflinks, type of shop you won't find anywhere else. Not dissimilar to the Umbrella shop in London. It was a bit of a York landmark. But if that's turned to anything, it's great now. It's a lively, vibrant bar, huge choice of beers on. One thing about the chaps from the House Trembling Madness, they really are committed to source unusual brews. So yeah, sign of the times really, sat in two converted historical shops.
Yeah, and I say York is quite busy. It's quite in here. Trembling Madness was quite busy, wasn't it? It was a bit near the tourist centre. And again, it's... and we're drinking local beer, so this time I'm on Brass Castle, this time on their mini IPA, because it's going to be a long day. And Bruce, what are you having?
I'm a Turning Point Waverland. Turning Point. They're based at Kirby Moorside now, I believe, Turning Point.
That's right, I think they've moved, haven't they? So,
Yeah.
so this Fosgate tap, it's one of those Cameron's house pub thing, but there's a partnership here with the Turning Point Brewery, which, as Bruce says, is quite a local one to York, so quite a lot of their beers are on the bar, but there's quite a range, isn't there?
Oh yeah,
there's quite a range of beers on the bar here.
Yeah, the Disco King, that's their sort of most well-known brewing tip, but they produce these ice cream blends that become increasingly common now, don't they? Beers are great, they're quite innovative as well, aren't they? They've got a good little following around York now.
Yeah. And what prices like? Let's see what prices were like. What were the prices?
It wasn't bad at all.
Right, we're with a blip there, but anyway, we're still recording, and hopefully we'll just attach. Right, we're back on, because I think we're with a blip there, but anyway, we're still recording, and hopefully we'll just attach this to the rest. So we'll just quickly explain kind of where we were. That we were currently in the Fosgate tap, and we talked a little bit about, again, these pubs that have changed from being retail premises into bars. And I said, we did mention yesterday that we'd been on our summer travels, so we're just going to do a bit of an enticer really today, just to give you some up-and-coming podcasts that we'll record over the next couple of weeks. So, as I mentioned, I've been to Jersey, so I'm going to do a little episode on Jersey. And Bruce, again, similarly, been doing a little bit of staycation island hopping, shall we say. So Bruce's family had a short stay in the Isle of Wight, Bruce, and then he also had a week or so in the southern port, shall we say.
We were down in Portsmouth a couple of nights. Portsmouth, an absolute beer mecca. I said I'd love to go back and visit some of the Spice Island pubs, and we saw a full pub across the harbour, which we could enticingly see but never reach. That was a bit annoying. Now they've got to go to the customs house. Brighton, of course, absolutely heaving with places to drink, catering for all tastes. A great buzz in Brighton. Loved it in Brighton. We ended up with a couple of nights in London, so yes, I'm sure we'll touch on those again very soon. And would really like to do a return visit, 9 as 5 we've children, with you and Nick, to go and really explore the corners of South Sea and Portsmouth.
You've been moaning for the last 2 weeks though on your WhatsApp about the price of pints, so Bruce. I'm not too sure about that really. So we're drinking.
It was a bitter blow every time.
£3.50 pints all day yesterday in Malton. So I don't know. So no, we'll say we'll do a. I think we'll set up a full episode of Bruce, and Bruce has been kindly sending me lots of photos, so I've put all those together already, a bit of a YouTube presentation that we can do, and I've done something similar for Jersey, so we'll pick those up again as we go through. So I'll say we'll just sit and watch the world go by in York. York's quite busy actually today. It's just getting a bit bright. It's been a bit of a grey damp start to the day, but it's looking a bit brighter now, isn't it? Obviously we're in the bank holiday weekend when we're recording this, so the food festival continues in Malton for another day today. I don't know whether we'll get a chance to pop in again today. Probably might just call in tomorrow. But again, it was a good day yesterday. We ended up at the Malton Royal Oak last night, and we had actually had quite a range of beers on. Again, he normally had a Pennine Wall top, and then there was where was the other beer from? There was a new brewery again, which I will pick up because I'll put it in my Untapped. Which actually called Tasman, which was quite nice actually, that one. So that was it, and obviously Nick was in good form because he was on to about pint 8, so he was in full flow. It's a bit like watching the kind of This Week in Parliament with Nicholas when he was in full flow. So he covered quite a lot of topics, didn't he, Finn, last night having our meal. So we did the normal Brexit, Afghanistan. We got onto solar panels in Rydale, which was another longer straw story we'll come back to. Logistics, staffing of pubs that Nicholas always knows what about. So I'm sure he'll continue give us his thoughts as we go through that as well. So the plan is that we're going to sit down hopefully at some point this week and just plan a few episodes that we're going to record. We'll probably back to, again, Zoom recording over the next couple of weeks. So I think we'll do a general catch up in a bit more detail what we've been up to. I mentioned me and Nick we had a trip out to Whitby, so we might do a session on Whitby, and we've got to do one on Malton. And I know Nick and I talked about this yesterday. We haven't actually done a Malton beer trail, and although it's a little bit different to what it used to be, we will hopefully, again, for anybody travelling and passing through, it's certainly worth a stop. As long as you're drinking rather than eating, I'll probably say at the moment.
Absolutely.
But we'll put that together as well. So we're just debating what to do. We've got about another hour or so before we have to head off to the rugby. So we might just have a walk down to the Phoenix, I think. Bruce suggesting.
Phoenix is lovely. Actually, I also saw an enormous queue in the shambles for something called the York Ghost Merchants, which baffled us. But I've just taken a look though, and it's actually a shop where you can go and get a ghost figurine souvenir made to your own design and comes in your personality. I'll talk about a bizarre idea to make you money. The queue was vast, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously being hitting social media.
But the only good thing was, obviously, the queue for the pork pie shop was very small, so we managed to. The queue was some very fine.
The lady in the pie shop was cross because the queue was obscuring the vision of all the wonderful pies and knocking their trade.
Because normally by about this time of day, the pies have all gone, so there actually was still quite an array of pies left. So
she was quite furious.
Bruce kindly has configured out with some. We were just eating them by the Whitby Gate sign in York, and I think we made quite a few tourists who were having their tour of York. Two of us sat there shoveling pork pies in, which was good. So we might come back to you in the Phoenix.
Okay, so in the end, we decided that the Phoenix was a little bit too far because we had to catch the bus to get out to the stadium. So we actually ended up just going down Fossgate, which very much now is becoming very much York's beer street. So we didn't mention the Fossgate tap, I don't think, or it wasn't on Bruce's list. We did. We may have I think we did mention it, but again, it's the first time I've actually been in since it's kind of became the Fossgate tap. Really nice pub, really good staff, really nice setting, and we managed to get in the window seat right at the very front. It's fantastic to watch the world go by. It's quite a long, thin pub. There are some seats outside. You are right next to the Blue Bell, obviously another York legendary pub, and across the road from the Hop, which again we've talked about. Certainly for me and Nicky, it's one of our favourite haunts in York. Ossett Brewery, some really good beer there. But obviously now you've got Fossgate, which leads on to Warmgate, which is just fantastic load of pubs there. And of course, as you cross over the River Foss, you come to Brew York. So we decided that what we do is we'd walk down to Brew York. Again, actually, I've only ever been to Brew York and I'd sit outside. So we went into the beer hall. We tried to go upstairs, but there was quite a few big parties coming in, so we ended up downstairs with the fantastic view. Anybody's been to Brew York of some of the original kit. Obviously now I think Brew York does more is brewing a little bit. They've got a new unit, and I think they just do kind of small batch brewing here, but it's still a great place to sit and drink a few beers in the tap room. And again, they do also have a food link as well, so they do kind of Korean street food, which was pretty fantastic as well. And certainly the Son and Heir made short work of his pulled pork bow and his loaded chips. I again kept it fairly low key in that I was on their Karma Chameleon, and Bruce went up for again quite strange, but I think I was buying, so he went for the a pint of the Big Eagle, the 6.5%. Just a little thing there. Obviously we actually got the beers upstairs because a little tip about Brew York: there are normally more beers on the bar upstairs than there is downstairs. Isn't there a bigger range of that? However, the cask upstairs is a bit of a kind of the cask actually came out at taps at the back where the keg lines were, whereas downstairs they do pull the cask. So it's kind of the beer was still pretty good, tasted pretty nice. So that it was great to pop into the Brew York and have a couple of pints in there. Actually, there was quite a few rugby fans in there as well. Same idea, really. It wasn't over busy. It was a bit of a cast actually that time in York, but definitely a walk out. And again, we didn't mention Brew York when we talked about our podcast about going around York. Just to pick up then a couple of points there. Bruce mentioned Turning Point. Turning Point actually were initially in Kirby Moorside, which is just on the edge of the North Yorkshire Moors, but they actually moved to Knaresborough in 2019, again, to expand their brewing. And again, as I mentioned, they have that partnership with the Fossgate tap, and quite a range of their beers are always on the Fossgate. And Bruce mentioned Disco King is probably their most famous beer, and definitely worth taking out a pint as well. They do have a tap room at the brewery in Nesborough, but that is only open on Fridays and Saturdays. And I know when we went to Nesborough, remember back in episode, I think it was 12, we went to Roosters. Unfortunately, we went in the week, so I know we couldn't actually call in to Turning Point because of that. So again, definitely worth looking out for that if you're on the way as well. As you mentioned, Nick and I, we went to the Old Malton Royal Oak, again, one of Nick's regulars, on a Saturday evening, and the beer that I just couldn't remember actually was Tasman Bay, and that actually is one of the new Fuller's range, Fuller's and Friends, and that was a brew that they'd done with Gypsy Hill, obviously both from London, but again, was a really, really nice beer, and certainly had a couple of those as well, so that was great. So Phil and I then jumped on we got on that bus, we got on the York City Nights bus, which is a fantastic link, almost directly from outside the Fossgate tap, and that takes you to the LNER Stadium, which again is a fantastic new stadium, just towards the north of York on the Monk's Cross shopping retail park. Unfortunately, the drinks offer is a little bit limited in the stadium, so it was either Amstel, Foster's, John Smith Smooth, or Strongbow. So I did succumb to the Amstel. The good news was that they do 2-pint glasses, so it meant you didn't have to keep going to the bar very often, and at £5 a pint, which was, I guess, for a sports stadium was very reasonable. But again, certainly worth if you're in York and you're a bit of a sports fan. Obviously, they share the ground with York City, who play in the Northern Conference, and obviously York City Knights have had quite a good couple of years now in the Rugby League Championship. So again, it's worth popping out there. There are a couple of pubs that are on that retail park. Nothing to shout about really. There is a Hollywood Bowl right next to the stadium as well, where I think a lot of people will get a beer before and after the game as well. So all in all, it was a great couple of days really in York and in Malton. Definitely worth going to the Food Festival. If you were around, it's actually normally in May, but obviously with the pandemic they put it back to August. But again, there's always a good range of beers. As we mentioned, the Brass Castle have taken over the Milton Rooms, and in fact they were doing Ossett beers alongside their own. There's the Yorkshire Beer Buzz, which is always there as well, and obviously Howard and the Yorkshire Pudding Brewery had their beers on as well. And then all the pubs and things in Malton are also normally put on a great range of beers as well. And the Brass Castle, again, it was really good sitting out the back of there, and it's great that Brass Castle nearly always have a bad seed, at least one bad seed beer on as well, which again I'm quite a fan of theirs as well. So a great weekend really for the August bank holiday, really nice catching up with everybody. So I hope that's just kind of give you a quick summary about kind of what we've been doing over the summer. I said the plan is that we're going to start meeting now and get back into more of a series, and probably put something out every 2 weeks. One of the things I have done over the summer is I have updated some more of the pub lists. So if you do want to have a look on our website, which is malttravels@podbean.com, look for pages on there. Again, we've slightly updated the website as well. The pubs that we talk about, I've tried to do a quick summary, quick idea about where they are, and a few ideas about transport, etc., getting to these places. So I'm not quite caught up yet. I think I've got a couple of episodes just to finish up, but including the episode we've just done, there will be full pub lists on there as well. So please do check that out, print them off. I know one people have said that they have been out themselves this summer and found that list quite useful. So as always, we're not really recommending, we're just telling you a few places that we like to go to as well. So as always, you can get this podcast on all good podcast platforms. And remember, if you're listening to it, you can also watch on YouTube, and we put a few nice pictures together as well. Again, apologies for the slight one or two blips in the recordings, but again, that's what happens kind of when you're kind of wandering around York, have a few beers with your iPhone to record all of this. And hopefully we will see you all in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you very much.